when it comes to who was or who is the greatest African, but certain people might want to project other people that they think that should take that slot. But looking at achievements, legacies, but I think Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, will stand tall. Why? Because if you look at the personality of Nkrumah, he was not just a political figure, but was more of a revolutionary leader, and not just an African iconic figure, but he was a figure that was actually a global figure. But then this great personality, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, there are certain fascinating facts that people might not be aware of. So in this video, I shall be presenting to you 5 fascinating facts that probably you might not know about Ghana's or Africa's revolutionary leader known as Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So coming number 1 on the list, that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was not just a political figure or a revolutionary leader, but he was also someone that was a prolific writer and came up with philosophical ideas, and then actually came out with a philosophical theory. In fact, Nkrumah was a deep philosophical thinker, but one of these philosophical ideas is a theory he came out with known as conscientism. But conscientism is a theory that he detailed in a book in 1964 with the same title, Conscientism. So now, what is conscientism? But conscientism is an attempt by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to come up with a philosophical framework that guided the post-colonial state, and for that matter, Ghana, and to a larger extent, Africa. The aim of conscientism was to synthesize the 3 main strands that influence the modern African society. And these 3 main strands include the African indigenous tradition, the humanist and egalitarian principle of African society, were something that we're living with. And one of these influences that had an effect on the African society was Islamic values. But we were also having these Islamic values that were coming into the continent and was being embraced. And then he also looked at the Western traditions and then the influence of Christianity. So, but the goal of this was to look at the positive aspect of each of these 3 strands that influence the modern African society, and how to come up with a progressive African society rooted in socialism, but distinct from European Marxism. But though he wanted a system of socialism, but he was very careful not to push that into European socialism, and that was a very intelligent idea by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. For it was his intellectual blueprint for decolonizing the African mind and creating a unified modern African identity. Beautiful. So let's get to the second one on the list. Nkrumah was someone that had a meticulously structured daily routine built on discipline and austerity. Looking at his busy schedules, he spent time to do a lot of writing and meditation. But it is recorded that Nkrumah will wake up between the hours of 4 and 5 a.m. and then spend time reading, writing, and meditating in solitude. But this he usually does before the business of the day. But all this structured his personality and then built upon his personality as someone that was discipline. And with that state of being disciplined, one thing that people might not know also is that in fact Nkrumah, in that quest of being disciplined, he also disciplined his diet and decided to choose to be a vegetarian. So why would he be a vegetarian? But he believed that a clear mind and healthy body were essential for the immense task of nation building. This discipline routine was a stark contrast to the public persona of the showboy who captivated millions. Then coming third on the list, whilst Nkrumah is known as the key founding leader, or one of the key founding leaders of the OAU, which is now the AU, but people might not know that he was also on the global stage and was a key leader and a founding member of a group that was known as the Non-Alignment Movement, that included world presidents and leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, and Josip Broz Tito of Yugoslavia. Nkrumah was a founding leader of the Non-Alignment Movement. In fact, this was a bloc of nations that came together to stand neutral and not involved in the Cold War that was between the US and then the Soviet Union. This was a bold and strategic move for a newly independent nation. And this was a key achievement, being an African leader and on the global stage being a leader. But all this shows his personality as someone that was charismatic and someone that was actually a born leader. Then coming fourth on the list, he was also given a darling name known as Nkrumah Showboy. Nkrumah Showboy. In fact, I can remember my dad used to tell me about the charisma, the persona, the charm of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to the extent that there was a song that was created for him that goes like, Nkrumah Showboy, Nkrumah Showboy. And so he was that character that was actually admired, but he was someone that could connect with the locals, with the market woman, with the throw mate, with the ordinary person on the street, and carry a kind of charisma that was actually admired by all. That gave him the name Nkrumah Showboy. And it was not only his charisma and personality, but he was also a powerful speech writer, and wherever he goes, he is able to move the crowd with his powerful speeches. But in 1960, a speech he presented at the UN, got the crowd cheering him and then getting up to give him a standing ovation. But this was partly because of the achievement that he's able to bring on board, because he put Africa on the map, and that was a great achievement. But I even learned sometimes when he's presenting speeches at the UN, you find people getting up to look up to see that great African who was so powerful an orator. In fact, his US address greatly boosted his international reputation and cemented his image as a leading voice of Africa and then the non-alignment movement. But he was able to create a kind of persona that wherever he went, he carried a charisma that was admired by all. But I know Ghana's former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, sometimes is also being referred to Nana Showboy. So I don't know whether because of how he carries himself, whether he also has a charisma, or probably because he might also be a great orator that might earn him the name Nana Showboy. But I don't know. Now drawing down to the fifth on the list, he was someone that advocated for women inclusiveness in leadership and politics. But this advocacy resulted in the election of 10 women into Parliament in 1960. That was the first parliament. In fact, this was a substantial number by global standard at that time. And not only this, he also ensured that some of those women were actually given very prominent portfolios. And one of these women is a woman by name Susanna Alansa. But I've been talking about this particular prominent female figure known as Susanna Alansa in my previous videos. In fact, She was made Minister of Social Affairs in 1961 and was actually a cabinet minister. In fact, Susan Alasa became the first female to hold ministerial portfolio as a cabinet minister, not only in Ghana, but the whole of the sub-Saharan Africa. And that was possible through that advocacy by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. All this should tell you the leadership style of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that advocated for inclusiveness in leadership and politics. But not all, he also ensured that his party, the CPP, he supported the formation of the CPP's Women's League, which mobilized thousands of women into political action, recognizing their crucial role in the independence struggle of the new nation. In fact, all this is because of his nature of someone who had his tradition rooted in positive activism, and that was actually on the right track. It was unlike politics during those days where African political leaders they visibly sideline women, and it was all about men. But Nkrumah was different. So all this actually made Nkrumah to stand out as a figure admired by all. Nkrumah was not just an African icon, but was also a global icon that was celebrated and still celebrated. Some of his philosophies and ideologies influenced and then brought about organizations and movements, and one of them is the Pan-Africanism that is still with us up to today, and other movement and organizations. In fact, there is no doubt that Nkrumah still remains a figure that is still admired even up to today. So now tell me, do you think Nkrumah should take that slot as the greatest African, or you think that there are other African leaders that could also contest that slot as the greatest African? So you can let us know this at the comment section.